Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Live. We are so grateful for everybody for tuning in, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Happy Women's Month to every woman out there. So tonight's episode is a special one for each and every one of you. So we love you and we thank God for each and every one of you. And big ups to Pigali for giving us this beautiful place. It's an incredible place to come and chill and have a good time and mingle. And maybe you might meet somebody, you never know. But anyway, let's get down to the business. Tonight, this girl that I'm having here, guys, she is a sister, she's a friend, she's a mother, and over and above, she's such a beautiful, spirited woman, and I'm so excited to have her with us here tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please, let's welcome the one and only Miss Leandra.
Yay!
How you doing, girl?
Good, and yourself?
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having
Very
me.
busy woman. It was difficult to get hold of you, but finally you're here with me.
Yeah, finally.
Are you good?
All good. Let's do this. Do the
Awesome.
things.
Don't be nervous. I got you. I got you, all right?
First questions.
I got you. Lee, I want us to, before we get into, okay, let me hide my questions. Before we get deep into things tonight, you're a PK, right?
Yeah.
You grew up under a very strict Christian family.
Yes.
Tell us more about that. Speak into the mic.
So growing up,
Yeah.
it was. Can I just lower that? Yeah, like you say,
Yeah.
very in the Word, knowing that God is the center of our universe.
Yeah.
We ate the Bible, slept the Bible, read the Bible, like everything was it. God was our go-to, and there was nothing out of the norm.
Yeah.
So yes, we had like our wanting to venture off into the world. Normal PK stuff, PK kid stuff. PK kids are, they say we are the worst. We're not.
You're not.
No.
We are though.
I know. I'm trying to.
Because for me, I remember my mom is my dad are also pastors, so it was very difficult for us to do certain things that many other young people would do at that time.
Yes.
So I know there was a specific time that we were to go to bed,
Yes.
strictly so. So was it the same with you guys?
Oh, definitely.
Is it?
Definitely.
And plus, you guys are women. You don't have a brother, right?
No, I do have an older brother, but he obviously didn't grow up with us, so
Okay.
that's probably why you don't know him. But
Oh.
I do have a brother, so
Interesting. Okay. And then your sister. So it was you and your sister only.
they grew up at home. Yes.
At home, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sure your parents are very strict on you guys.
Oh, definitely. And I think as the older sister,
Yeah.
a lot fell on me because with them being pastors, they'd always go out. And back then, we would just get locked up in the house and you must cook, you must clean, you must do everything. And
Yeah.
they went and they did the word and
Interesting.
spread the gospel
Yeah.
while we
you-
had to obviously
Makes
still grow up and do our homework, make sure it's done.
Now you transition from that to being more of independent. Varsity. I think that's when I met you.
No.
When you were still in your
Yes.
CTI. Yes.
Yes, it was CTI.
It was CTI when we
Yes.
actually met. So the transition from that, because now you're getting more independent. I think you're working at Union Mart in Eastgate.
I was.
I remember,
yes.
you see?
My orange uniform.
So
Yes.
how was that? Because now I believe by that time you were independent, you could do things, you're not actually relying on them for so many things. The transition into that adulthood, pulling away from mom and dad in terms of independence, how was that for you? Were they still strict on you on certain things?
Definitely. My parents were
So there was
strict
not
on me
dating
till
for,
no, you weren't allowed to date. Weren't allowed to have a boyfriend.
but you were having a boyfriend.
Obviously, I had a boyfriend. Sorry, mom.
Okay.
But it was innocent.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the boyfriend and girlfriend that it is today.
Sure.
So if you look at the comparison from back then to now, it was more friendships. And I was a lot with the boys.
Yes.
A lot.
I'm one of them, by
Yeah.
the way. I'm just kidding.
No, you were.
No, but I was.
You were.
Actually, I was. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think leaving them, per se, and finding myself
Yeah.
was where it was something that I needed to do.
Okay.
And I think in that a lot of rebellion came in.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to like venture out, find your way, what's out there, because you were in this
And this, yeah.
cocoon and you wanted to float and find what's out there.
Yeah.
And I did.
And is it the time that you met Teton's dad?
Yes.
Ole.
Yeah.
What age were you by then?
I was 23.
23.
Yes.
Fresh graduation from university,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Tell us about that. How did you guys meet? Where actually did you guys meet?
Met at church.
I knew you were gonna say that.
It was church.
Yeah.
Where was I most of my time? I was at
Which
church.
is true. It was church. I remember.
I spent my life in church. It was, if I wasn't dancing, I was singing. If I wasn't singing, I was in the
We were at the youth
drama
together, by the way.
team. If I wasn't there, I was leading youth. If I'm driving illegally, I was that child.
Yeah.
So
You met him in church, yeah? Was it love at first sight?
it was. It was. It was something that, how do I put it? It was something out of my norm.
Yeah.
It was something that my parents didn't approve of. And you know,
they
when
know him,
somebody, yes, they knew him. So you know, when somebody says don't touch, you're gonna touch.
True.
You're gonna find out why are you saying to me don't touch.
True.
And my rebellion went from 0 to 100. It escalated very quickly. Where I ended up leaving home because they didn't approve of him. Left home, went and I found my own place.
Wait, back up.
Yeah.
So you guys met at church
Yes.
and you started dating.
Yes.
Introduced him to mom and dad.
Yeah.
And they didn't approve of it.
No.
And then you left home.
I left home. Don't judge.
I don't know you like that, hey? Okay. All right, okay.
It was a phase. It was a
Yeah, but
phase.
still, Lee, I mean, the Lee that I knew, okay, but never mind. Okay, continue, yeah? So you went home, I mean, you left home and looked for a place, yeah?
Found a place and everything was fine for like a few months. And then I found this guy staying with me. And that wasn't part of the deal. It was just like, no.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the idea was not for you guys to find a place
No.
together. It was you getting your own place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the nature that he had was just to abuse financially
Yeah.
and just latch on and just go for everything that you can possibly go for.
But Lee, wasn't those symptoms there when you guys were dating?
It was, because at that given point in time, he was actually staying with his best friend.
Oh. Okay.
So it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be independent on my own.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're in love,
Yeah,
Man.
certain things you just put under the rag. I get you.
your heart is it knows much better than your conscience and your mind, and
True.
your heart speaks.
True.
And it speaks loud. So, I found myself in that situation, being abused financially, because couldn't keep a job. And then obviously, like, because he ended up living there, temptation was there and ended up sinning.
Get you.
And found out about Satan, and he had none of it. It was just like, once I'm not.
So he was never there when the
No,
girl was born.
no. He wanted me to have an abortion.
Lee.
Yes. He said, I'm not having it. He threatened to kill himself. He slit his wrists in front of me.
I'm very intrigued because how I believe in every relationship there's always red flags that you guys, especially when it comes to women, that you guys identify quite quick.
Like
And
I said,
then-
the heart.
I get that. I'm just saying that, was it not a stage in that relationship that you realized that things are not going right?
The first red flag was my parents not approving. That was like, you know, when you don't have your parents' blessing.
Please say that again. Hey. Hey.
Your parents' blessing
Yeah,
is very important.
yeah.
And I bypassed that. I was just talking to them like, you guys do you, I do me, and let me figure myself out.
So you're pregnant at this stage. He's aware of it. He wants you to have an abortion.
Yes.
Your state of mind at the time, how was it?
I was raped. I was raped because I was like, I'm like, how is it fair that there's other children, that he had other children, but mine must be aborted?
Did he have kids?
Yes.
So he came into a relationship with kids.
Yes.
How many of them?
2.
And you welcomed them.
Yes. They were mine.
Yeah, what are you telling me, dude? So, God help me. So, was he beating you while else you were pregnant at that time or not?
So when I found out I was pregnant and he had suggested the abortion, and then he abused mentally as well. Because, like, I mean, nobody goes and tries to commit suicide with somebody in their presence.
True.
That is manipulation at its best.
Yes, it is. 100%.
And I sat and we rushed him to hospital. And while I was sitting in the hospital, I was just like, this is not for me. I sat in the hospital, Tembisa Hospital.
Wait, Leandra, where were you staying? If you were
Kempton Park.
Kempton Park.
Yes. Tembisa Hospital, and those cold chairs. And the counsellor wanted to see him, and I sat. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I went to one of the sisters and I was like, I need to get home because I need to get to work. And she was like, well, the next taxi is at 5 o'clock. You can get onto a taxi and it will drop you off where you need to be. And at 5 o'clock, I got into a taxi. I went home and I showered and I went to work. I didn't sleep. And a few days later, my gran had passed away. So it was too much to handle.
Dude.
So I was just like, I'm not going to deal with you. I need to deal with me. But not realizing that dealing with him was also dealing with me as well.
Yeah, true.
So I dealt with
Did
my
you
grans.
reach out to your parents after the incident?
No. My mom had just lost her mom. So there was no way I was going to go and burden my mom with something that had transpired.
Yeah.
So when we went to Kimberley, we came back from Kimberley, my brother had dropped me off at home. And that was the last night that he had ever hit me. Because I had said to him, I'm like, this is the last that you ever hit me. So in that time, like I had, because Tatum came with a lot of morning sickness, and it came with, it was kind of chronic because it wasn't normal. Like I ended up in hospital because of it, where it was like I would bring up blood with Tatum, and it was just like, and I remember being over the toilet the one day, and he pushed my head into the toilet.
Leandra,
So
what are you telling me, dude?
that was just,
Can I ask you something? Many a times, there was no way you would have provoked him in any way, right?
it was a matter of when are you working. So the question of when are you reaching your independence? I'm not that person. I'm black and white, like
I know.
as you know me.
Yeah.
I'm black and white. There's no grey line.
Because I'm thinking to myself, because many times one would say that I'm not, and please get me right. I'm not approving of any form of abuse. Period.
Yes.
But I know that there's women that do provoke men,
Yes.
and when I have an argument with my wife, the best I do is keep quiet and leave.
Yeah.
That's just who I am.
Yes.
You get what I mean? Because I know if maybe I retaliate, it might not end up looking
Yes.
good. So, hence I'm saying, was there at any point maybe you might have provoked him to
I
retaliate
don't
the way
believe
he
so.
did?
I
You
don't believe so.
right?
I think it came something of his self-worth.
Yeah.
That I was the next thing in line to attack. It wasn't like let me attack myself and work on myself internally. It was you are questioning me on things that I know I need to do. So my questioning, I know it was like, and I'm just like, I want the best for you. I want the best for us.
Yeah.
I don't want to be working for somebody. I go to work, I'll work hard, and then I must come home, I must pay rent, I must buy groceries.
That doesn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. So I questioned it. It's like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to keep a job? Just questions.
But again, it goes how you present those questions. Does it not factor?
I don't ever think that I was...
Because I know you not to be very harsh unless you're upset.
Yes.
Leandra, I know when
Yes.
she's upset, you could sense in her tone of voice. She's upset. Was it like that with him?
No, I think I was, like when you're in love, you like, that's in somebody's hands, man. And it was just like, we need to have these conversations.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But then he took your hand and stuffed it in the toilet.
Yes.
How long did the relationship last? Or actually, let me not ask that. How long did the abuse last in that relationship that you guys had?
It was about a year.
So within the period of a year, you were abused for a year. And you kept quiet about it.
I kept quiet. Nobody wants that question to say, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's making him be that person. And I think that is how, going into my marriage, it was just like on some, I definitely can't say anything, because with him, I went to I opened up a restraining order against him. I was that brave.
Okay.
I was just like on some, like, I'm not going to have it. That one night when I got home from Kimberley, I said, this is the last time that you're going to touch me. And I took his things and I said, you take your things now and you go back to where you come from, because this is not for me.
Yeah.
He's already established. He doesn't want the child. Abusing me was a sign that I'm also not something that he wants.
Yeah.
So I had to choose me and my child.
And then you left, he left, rather.
Yes, I put him out.
So he didn't fight you.
No, he did. His dad had flown up the next day.
So that's when you met the parents.
Yes.
Okay. And how was that? Did you speak to them?
I spoke to them. And it was just a matter of, please, can you take him back in? Like, even if he just sleeps on the couch. And I said, no.
They refused. They refused.
For him to leave. Yeah, they didn't want him.
Leandra.
But we're not here to bash anybody.
No. We're not. But the thing is, dude, I believe there's people that are going through the same thing. Not even people, women that are going through the same situation that you went through. And one way or the other, they're trying to find a way out.
Yeah.
But if you manage to come out of that toxic relationship, there must be a way for them as well to get out of it.
It's just a matter of standing your ground. Something that I didn't do soon enough in my marriage.
We'll come to the marriage.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. No, the thing is, I'm worried because, hey, Liam, and I'm not happy with what you're telling me. But in any case, so okay, the guy is gone, and then what happened from there?
I think I stayed at home, my own place, for about 2 months. And then I said, no, I need to go back home. So I was like the prodigal son. And I returned home.
You returned home.
Yes.
And then what happened when you got home?
It was like nothing happened.
Did you tell them what happened?
I did, because they obviously knew that I was now to be presented in court, and they supported me.
Okay, that's good. And then how was the healing process throughout then? Before you actually met your ex-husband?
I healed. I stayed in the Word, stayed at church. I finished Bible school. I was first year pregnant. Finished Bible school
Nice. Nice.
with a belly.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
And
Yeah.
it didn't count because I stayed the course.
Yeah, true.
So I went off a little bit, but I stayed it.
So when did you meet your ex-husband? Is it shortly after that or just
Just a little, but there was like a gap where I
Was it?
was like,
Is it?
I'm like, I need to focus.
So your daughter by then she was
She was 3.
3 years when you met your husband.
Yes.
And you also met him in church.
Yes.
Hey, Lord, you have mercy. Okay, so what happened?
So he was a functioning drug addict. And I only found out when I got married to him.
Nah, you're right. Did you guys date for some time?
We dated. So we didn't stay together. It was, we'd go on dates. And then there'd be times where he'd like disappear for a little bit and go with his friends. And I'd be like, okay, no, fine. Like, I've got my life, you've got your life. And then the one day we were sitting and he was like, you're going to marry me. And that was his proposal.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Was it sweet?
No.
But yet you accepted.
I accepted. I was just like, oh, okay. And I went with and I picked my own ring. Your face is just like,
Dude,
you did what?
Oh, what was going on through you, dude? Like, seriously, Lee, I don't know you like that, hey? The Leandra I know, she's too classy. The lady that I met while I was still around, yeah.
I know, hey,
Very
I
classy
had
lady.
standards.
Like you had serious standards, like serious standards.
Like nobody
I'm not gonna
gets-
say anything about what was, but one thing about you that I knew, you were, like we would sit there with the guys. Okay, let me not mention names, but you were like, girl, like you had standards, dude. Like who? What happened to you?
I think, well, I know that, you know, when you are in a certain situation, life will present to you something that is good.
Yeah.
And a person can only act good for a little while.
Oh yeah, true.
And a lot of the situation, the characters,
Yeah.
they acted really good. It was promises and words.
Yeah.
And I think, like, if we go back to the first one, it was a matter of me questioning those words.
Okay.
Because now I'm seeing that your words and your actions are
They
not
don't-
lining
they don't-
up.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
making sense.
True.
Something's off here.
Definitely.
And the same with my marriage. I was just like on some, okay, no, he didn't have a father figure to rear him in the right direction. Maybe he doesn't know how to ask.
So you make excuses.
I made
for them.
excuses.
Oh.
I made a lot of excuses
Just to accommodate them.
to accommodate.
Yo, dude.
And like you say, I was that person that was like on some like,
too classy.
exactly. So
Very classy.
it was like, no, Leandra, you need to help. You need to be a little bit humble. Like, come down to human level.
You are still on human level. That's one of the things that made us respect you to that level. It's not like we were afraid of you or anything, but there was just that level of respect. We could, okay, when we were with Leandra, this is how I should address her and talk to her. She's not, but she's you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so you went to pick your own ring, which for me, that still puzzles me.
Shush, man.
Okay,
It was
and
a
then what
pretty
happened?
ring. It was a pretty ring.
Okay, I'll give you that. But
Yeah, we went
by
to
the
my
way,
parents.
you guys don't do lobola, right?
No.
Okay.
Went to my parents. My parents loved him because he presented
Himself,
this godly
wow.
man.
Shucks.
This prayer warrior. Like, you ask him to pray and he'd like recite the Bible for you. And I
Lee.
think that is where we look at people and we
Yeah, that's the biggest mistake we
We
make.
judge the book by its cover.
True.
And it wasn't long, we got married. Had a princess fairy tale wedding.
And I was not even invited to that wedding. Ada. Yeah?
Let us pray.
Okay.
And a week into being married, something was off.
But how could you tell?
So I'm very analytical.
Okay.
So because we didn't stay together, and now in my first week of being in this environment with this person, I was just like, you're not the same person.
Wait, so the week before you guys got married, were you guys staying together?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
moved in after.
In his apartment,
Yes.
not yours. Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right.
And he ended up going to work. And then said he's working overtime. And I was stuck on some, overtime? And I didn't say anything. I was stuck on some, okay, it's me and my daughter. We've got the place to ourselves. We'll do our things. We'll bake our things. We'll just carry on with life. And at the end of the month, the payslip never said overtime. It never calculated. And I was stuck on some, didn't you say you're working overtime? And the one day, he was like, no, they'll pay it on a different time. Now I went into my prayer closet and I said, Lord, you will reveal to me what is going on. And 2 months later, he got arrested for possession of drugs. And that was my revealing point. So I could either say, okay, this is a red flag, I need to leave.
Yeah.
Or I could say, okay, this is a red flag, I need to help you. And I said, this is a red flag, I need to help you.
Because you're a wife.
Because I'm a wife now, I can't just leave.
True. You're not a girlfriend anymore.
I'm not a girlfriend, it's not
so
a choice anymore.
So you still honored your
Yes.
marriage vows. Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it should be.
So I left him there. Because they were like on some like, you need to bail him out. I was like, no, I don't. Like he can sit there a little bit till I calm down.
Okay.
It sounds bad. It sounds bad.
Yeah.
But it's just like when you're in a situation like that, you're just like on some like I can either say things, or I can leave. And with the way things were at that point,
but Lee,
I could either get a hiding for saying what I was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was just like on some. Okay, let you stay there a little bit, and then I ended up bailing him out because I was like, if I keep him there a little bit longer, I'm gonna be in trouble.
True that. But this was 2 months into the marriage.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, bailed him out, and it escalated. It didn't get any better. So, like I say, verbal abuse became physical. So it was a pattern. And it was like, no, I'm never going to do it again, I'm sorry. Or...
That's what almost all abusers say.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
Or that conviction to say, you actually made me do that, hey?
Yeah.
And the one day I packed up all my things and I said, I'm not doing this. Like, I can't put my child in a situation where...
And you're not pregnant at that time, right?
Not.
You're still... Okay, cool.
No.
But can I ask you something? Usually especially when you're married, when something goes wrong, the first place where you ask for counsel, it's parents. Because now the blessings of the parents are there. So whether we like it or not, at some point, they do come in and assist if we see that there's something wrong.
Yes.
Didn't you call out to them when
Leandra? No. I was like, I'm married now. This is my battle.
No.
That was my perception of things.
Okay.
Because, when you come from one abusive relationship into another one, you're just
now I get what you're saying,
I'm going to be questioned as to what did you do?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
This happened with this person. It's happening with this person now. So what is it that you are doing?
So people might think you are the common...
Yes, I'm the problem. I'm at the center of it.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to these people that you are now...
That's a wrong mentality.
It's a mentality that's I can call myself, at that given point in time, a victim has. It's, what am I doing?
Did you say that to yourself?
I did. And then I found out that actually this person actually did have this problem way before. So at 18, he started. And that's why I'm saying a functioning drug addict. And it came to a point where we sought counsel from a church that dealt with drug addiction.
Okay.
And he went, he was diligent, I went, because I was like, I need to know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long where he started taking other things to hide what he was taking, because they do like urine tests and stuff.
Yes.
And there was a vitamin, I'm not going to say the vitamin just in case
It's okay.
that hides traces of drugs. Yes. So he would go and test, and his test would come out positive. And I would ask, why are you taking so many of those? And it would be like, no, I just need to like up my vitamins. And then the one day, like things would be normal.
Yeah.
So we'd have like normal conversations. Like, so tell me, can I also start taking the vitamins the way you're taking them? What's it gonna do for me?
Yeah.
So it was like, no, it's not gonna work for you, because when I go and I test, it makes the test negative.
So he kind of confessed, but he was not aware that
he wasn't aware that he's actually confessing.
Shoot.
I was like, oh, okay.
So that means he's still using.
He's still using. And then again, it came to where he just wasn't home.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting a tracker in the car. A whole Medea situation.
Oh, dude, I was about to say that. No. This is too hectic. Okay.
I ended up putting a tracker in the car just to find out where he's going. Because I was like, if I'm going to be in danger, I need to know. I was already in danger.
Yeah.
But like I say, my mind couldn't comprehend that I was okay with the danger that I was in.
All right. So let's talk about him exposing himself with regards to the pill that he was taking to reduce, and then you finding out, right? And then what happened from there?
Trust levels obviously
dropped. Yeah.
So because I would question and I'd be more observant of situations, it got me into a little bit more trouble because I'd question again. Yes.
Is it that started to trigger the physical abuse from him?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously at the time we had already had Josh.
Oh yes.
And so I think in essence it escalated very quickly. You don't have a warning sign to say like you're now in verbal abuse and it's physical abuse is coming next. It happens very quickly.
But my question then is, when the first time he hit you, because I know he didn't hit you once, the first time he hit you, didn't that kind of like took you back and say, okay, it's happening again, I need to make a stop to this now?
You kind of limit your boundaries. So you say to yourself, okay, if this is going to happen, I'm going to leave. If he's going to say this, I'm going to leave. And then it happens. And then they call it a honeymoon phase in abuse, where it's, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again. And then you're forgiving. And you push a boundary back and you're like, okay, no, fine. This has now happened. When he does this, I'm going to leave. When he does this, I'm going to leave. So every time something happens, you push a boundary back. And your value kind of, every time that happens, depreciates.
Does that happen to most women that are in abuse situations?
A lot of women isolate themselves.
Yeah.
So because with isolation comes loneliness. And the worst part about loneliness is not, how can I say, being alone. Yeah. I can be in my car and be alone. I'm not lonely.
Yeah.
The lonely part comes when you feel that nobody cares. That's for me is loneliness. Where you feel that you've now isolated yourself, and the reason you're isolating yourself is because you don't want to explain to people what is going on. You don't want to explain the blue eye. You don't want to explain the bruise. You don't want to expose yourself and the person, and now have to defend the person because you're still having to defend yourself.
So reaching out to people at that time is a no-no.
It's a no. You don't. Nobody wants to,
Yeah.
because you're gonna get questioned. Why? What did you do? What did you say?
Okay,
How
so,
were you?
So, okay, fine. He hit you the first time. You gave him a second chance. He
Yeah.
came back again the second time.
Yes. Push a boundary.
And you pushed the boundary.
Yes.
So when did it get to a point where you say, okay, I'm filing for divorce. I'm not going through this anymore. I can't stand this anymore. After how long have you been
It's a
in
process.
marriage?
It's a
Yeah.
process. I was married 5 years, and I ended up in hospital under operation because of abuse. And it was to a point where my muscle had been severed, that I had to drive myself to the hospital. And I got into the car, took the kids with me, obviously, and drove a manual car at the time. So obviously this arm was gone. I couldn't do this.
Just numb.
It was numb, like I had no muscle because it had been severed with a glass. And I got to the hospital and the doctor said to me, what happened? And I was like, there was an accident. And the thing with somebody in abuse, you'll never expose yourself, because I remember the first time I went to report at the police station. The police officer had asked me, do I have a restraining order against the person? And I had said no. And I asked them, what does that have to do with them actually arresting him? And they were like, they can't arrest him because they don't have paperwork to arrest him. I'm like, but you can look at me and you can see that something is wrong.
I mean,
and
it's
they
ridiculous.
were just like, no, we're not allowed to.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous. I mean,
And I went home to that situation. I went back home. And I felt that for me was just like, if the law can't defend
I was just about
me,
to say that.
who's going to defend
But I mean, if you walk in a police station and they could see that this person is bruised, and they tell you that you need to open a restraining order before they can actually
So
step
you go,
in.
you literally
It's
go
crazy.
there. You go there. A lot of the cases happen at night. So you go there. I'm not gonna go back the next morning to a court and humiliate myself even more.
Yeah. So the
Because-
justice system, it's nonsense then.
A justice system. That is why you'll find a lot of independent houses coming up for women to actually go to.
Okay,
Like
so
safe houses.
you're in hospital and you're going through an operation.
I didn't actually go through the operation that night. So he wanted to admit me. And I said to him, no, I can't. Because at that point in time, I had visioned my daughter's room, because we had tried to get away from him so quickly that I had, like, adrenaline will make you powerful. And I had pushed her door closed with, like, me and her and obviously Josh inside, that we couldn't open the door again. So he couldn't open the door to get to us, and I couldn't open the door to get out. And the situation had calmed, and I had to ask my daughter to climb out the window and try and go and push the door open from the outside. And while that was happening, I was like, Lord, give this child the strength. And she's like this tiny little person. And she managed to open up the door. I took the car. I had no access to the car. I wasn't allowed to touch the car.
Was it your car or was it
It was
his
my
car?
car. He had bought it for me. So it was my car.
Oh, yeah, it was your car.
Yeah, and drove myself to hospital. And when he said to me, he's admitting me, I'm like, I've got 2 kids here. You can't admit me. And at that time, I was pregnant. So I was abused verbally, physically, sexually in my marriage. That is why with my third one, I didn't really accept her. I was just like, I'm like, I can't fathom this. Like, and I asked myself, I'm like, Lord, why me? Why am I in the situation that I'm in? So there I am. I was 3 months pregnant. The doctor wants to admit me, and I'm saying to him, no, you can't admit me. I need to sort out my kids. And I think he had felt that he saw that there was something wrong, but he couldn't say anything because I didn't ask for help.
Sure.
So you can't get help if you're not going to ask for it.
Yeah. Sure.
So with that being said, he said to me, fine, he'll let me go home, but I need to be back 6 o'clock the next morning. And I went home and I had spoken to him because they had patched me up. But I still couldn't use the arm. And he was like, no, he's not going to do it. He's sorry. And it was, again, remorse and all sorts of stuff. And he was just like, you go in and you do what you need to do to get better. And I had to trust this person with my kids because I didn't expose myself to anybody.
So you went back home?
I went back home.
And then everything was okay?
He had presented that everything was okay.
Yeah. So his friends were not aware?
They were well aware. There was a time where his friends came and visited him and he didn't like the fact that I had excluded myself from the whole setup.
Okay.
And he came in and he had hit me at that given point in time. And his friends had opened up the gate and left while I was being hit. And he would go to work and announce that he was hitting me, and none of them would do anything. Two of them reached out to me, but none of them would actually be brave enough to do anything.
But I think that is very wrong. So what does it say about us as men and our characters as well? Because if my friend hits the wife and I'm saying I cannot be part of that. But again, it goes back to society, because remember, when it comes to issues of marriage, it's for two people. So one might have that mindset that I don't get involved with things that I was not there when they started.
Yes.
But again, when your friend does something wrong and you could see that what he's doing, it's not allowed, and then I just leave it, that means I'm part of it.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah. There were a lot of people that contributed. And it's hard to know that they were part of it, but I had to get to a point where I had to forgive as much as him and them. Because even though I returned home after having surgery, I still went home and I pushed another boundary and I pushed it far. And the lies came and I lied about how I got hurt, where I got hurt, why I got hurt. It was an accident. I had a sliding door and people would see that something was wrong. That something's not normal here. But the thing is, nobody wants to say, I am going through X, Y, Z. Because it's humiliating.
Yeah.
And I think as a generation in such a time as today, where gender-based violence is so alive,
True.
We need to be so much more willing. We need to listen. Mm-hmm. The Bible says that a foolish man does a lot of this, but a wise man listens. And we need to start listening more and not having a situation where somebody comes up to us and saying to them, this is what I'm going through. And then you then sit, but why did you go through that? Or you then ask yourself, or you make the situation about yourself. It's like, oh yeah, I was also. This person is coming to a point where they are now willing to expose themselves, and it's a step to their healing. And we as people just need to listen and offer a big advice and not offer. Sometimes we don't know what to say.
My greatest concern is that you've been in this marriage for 5 years, as you say. Within that period of 5 years, how many times in that 5 years? Was it 4 years of, or is it the full 5 years of physical, sexual, emotional abuse? The full 5-year term?
You have periods where it's like a term. Like one term, it's good. And then the next term you come home and your whole house is sold.
So, but doesn't the pattern repeat itself?
It repeats itself.
So
but sometimes it gets worse.
Is it?
Yeah, it gets worse. So it escalates. So it's something that grows, man. Like you have a seed.
Yeah.
And the more you plant that seed, so like water that seed, the more it's going to grow.
Okay. Lee, at what point in your marriage did you now say, this is it for me? I'm done with all of this. I'm leaving and I'm setting myself free from all of this.
So I had actually started packing while everything was happening. And I prayed the one night and I said, Lord, you need to reveal unto me when the time comes, when it's safe for me to leave. And there was just a point where I had packed boxes. And this was like right after my operation where I couldn't do this. I'm so glad that I can do this today. Like nobody will understand how hard it was to actually do that. But where I had taken boxes and I had packed them up into the cupboard so that he doesn't see what I'm actually doing. And the one day he had left and I just heard the gate open. And one of the guys from work phoned me and they were like, he's here. Is everything okay at home? And I was like, you know what? Today's the day that you come and you fetch me and you take me home. And he came. And they orchestrated, I think God had intervened a point where he had just allowed him to go in at that given point in time and allowed a space for me to be removed from that situation. And from there, I didn't look back. I was 6 months. No, I lie. I was 4 months pregnant. Yeah.
Was he aware that you were pregnant at the time as well?
Yeah. I was kicked in the stomach. I
were now.
Yeah. And it was just...
So you packed up and you went home?
I packed up
to your parents, yes. And then that's where the healing started?
It didn't start right away because I had suppressed it. I was just like, I need to deal with everything else that's happening.
Was it worse than the previous relationship?
It was definitely worse. A lot worse.
To a young lady out there who's going through something similar to what you went through, I mean, you said something quite profound when we were off camera, that you cannot measure divorce. I mean, you cannot measure abuse.
Yes.
It's different for everybody. It doesn't mean that if this person is going through this level of divorce, it's okay.
Yes.
It might be traumatizing to them, that level. So for somebody who's going through something similar and they want the courage to break away from it, what would you say to them?
Just do it. You can't think about it. You just need to build up the courage to do it. There's no perfect time. There's no right time. There's no set time to do it. You just have to value yourself enough to know that God hates abuse.
True.
The story of Noah, we think it's like really cute for the ark to be in our kids' room, but that story actually was where God saved 8 people because he didn't like what was happening, because people were so evil that he decided it's better just to start afresh. And if anybody ever thinks that divorce is not okay, if you've been abused and you're in a marriage, it's okay to leave. I got the words where it was said to me, it's better for me to come home alive than to come home dead.
Yeah, 100%.
And I could have made a choice where I could have said, you know what, I could have left my kids without a mother.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was heading.
Yeah.
Like the signs that I was in hospital, the signs that like this person was just like, I'm not going to do it again. And then like you return home and then the abuse continues.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you've got like this ailment and the situation where you're trying to now cover your job, trying to put up a facade, and it comes with that like where you just have to it's tiring.
Yeah.
And I think it's just to build up that courage and the strength to say I am worth it. Yeah. I can leave. Yeah. This is not where I need to be. And the thing that we don't often realize is that Jesus was abused. And we don't need to go through that. He went through it for us.
Sure.
So there's no need for us to then sit and say, this is my fault. Another thing is where people say, it's my fault. What could I have done? I'll stay in the situation because I'll try and fix the situation. We can't always fix things. True. Where it comes, where you realize that you are breaking more than you are trying to fix the next person, It's not worth it.
It's not, yeah.
So,
So, to the brothers out there that are friends to men that they know they are abusive, what would you say to them?
stand up and be the safe place that any woman
Yeah,
can come to,
that I would like to, definitely.
because we can't be turning a blind eye. Adam was created and Eve was formed out of his rib,
True.
and we can't be seen as less because we were taken from man.
Yeah,
So
we should be a safe space for you guys.
it needs to be a safe space. So, and not as much as like, yes, it's Women's Month. The sad reality is men are being abused too,
Yeah, true.
and
True.
it's not something that's okay.
Yeah.
If you're in that situation, you need to step out.
True. True.
And the only time you're going to get healing is when you expose yourself.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like to sit here and know that my face is linked to the story, my name is linked to the story. It's something that I have to own and say, I didn't go through what I went through for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of the times, yes, there are tough times, but we have to push through them.
Lastly, to the body of Christ, to the church, how should we treat people who are going through or who went through divorce, people who went through abuse, people who've been hurt? What would you say to the body of Christ with regards to that in particular?
The Bible is very
Because-
big on love.
Yeah, because I know you've been through a lot after that with the church and how much they've hurt you. And like I said, we're not going to mention names, but I'm just saying, to the body of Christ now, what are we supposed to be to people who are going through that, or somebody who is in pain of that?
Not a convictor, not somebody who condemns. It's like I said earlier, Book of Proverbs speaks about listening. We need to listen and love and accept. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be the cause of somebody being buried because we weren't brave enough to attack the situation and realize that this wasn't right. I think it's just a matter of a lot of education needs to go into it because a lot of people don't understand it. So an abusee would be victimized themselves because you think you're not good enough. You know, you label yourself on the inside and it hits your soul. And to have people attack your character and ask you questions as to why and why you're getting divorced, why you're doing this, stop.
Yeah.
Just take a minute, stop, listen, and ask God for wisdom.
We're closing. If there was one thing in your life that God gave you an opportunity to go back and fix, what would that be and why? So basically my question is, if ever there was a redo button available, would you press it or would you go for it or not?
No.
And if you would, what is it that you want to go back and fix?
No. Because if I hadn't gone through what I went through, I wouldn't have my kids.
Oh,
So, quick story. We were walking in the mall one day and Josh
yeah,
had named Daniela.
yeah.
And I was like, who's Daniela? And at this time, I'm 7 months pregnant. I've got no name for my child. I don't know anything. And with my other kids, I named them when I found out who they were. But because I didn't accept, because of the line that the abuse that she came through, I didn't accept her.
Yeah.
And I went home that night and Daniel, was the story. And she is an emblem of been removed from the lion's den.
Yeah.
So every time we speak her name,
Yeah.
we remind ourselves that God protected us.
Sure. Sure.
So I would not change a thing.
You cannot change a
I
thing.
can't.
Sure. Oh, sis, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your story. These are for you.
Oh, thank you.
I hope they're nice.
They're beautiful.
But I want to present you with those flowers.
Thank you.
One, you're a very brave woman. Very brave. I don't think anybody would be comfortable telling us what you went through. Because, like I said, I know you. And I know your character from when we were still in the youth. And to see what you went through and what happened to you, it kind of set me off a bit. But I'm glad that you have educated us on this matter, especially as men. I'm talking to men. You have educated us that we need to be very vigilant. And also we need to be very much supportive. And we need to be the space of safety for every woman out there. And from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely apologize for everything that all those guys did to you. I'm just praying that God may bring the right man who's gonna love you the way you deserve to be loved, because you're a very beautiful person, inside and out. Like I can attest to that personally. Yo, she's not available, but if you want it, come talk to me first. From now on, y'all gonna have to talk to me. I'm gonna have to sit y'all down, and I'm gonna have to interview you for her. Nobody's gonna go to her before you come talk to me first. Y'all heard me? So yeah, man. But for real, sis, I love you so much, and
Love you too.
thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this. Much appreciated. Guys, we're signing out. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please catch us next week. We'll be having another guest. It's Women's Month. May God bless you. I love you. And good night. Salute.